another one. I look forward to so many of these things because, man, the fans, we get to meet so many men and women we weren't able to. This is part of Zebra Week. Zebra Week. It's been amazing. This is part of Zebra Week, stirring the pot, Don Kincaid, and my very special guest, Refel Dojan. Am I saying Dojan? Do you pronounce it with the J?
Yes, you are. You got it correct. Most people say it wrong, but you nailed it.
Well, it could be, yeah, it could be Dohan. You never know. I want to be
I
correct
get that
on this
one.
stuff.
That's the one that I get most often.
Zebra Week has been fantastic. I've gotten some referees from my area. I'm in seats. We've talked to Ref Will Thompson, Bill Thompson. Sorry. Oh God, don't tell him I called him Will. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me. Ref Bill Thompson, L Ref, Ref Miggy Stripes. We've talked to Ref Quinn. We've talked to Ref Blue Shoes, Gina. I love Ref Gina to pieces. So you, my friend, this is Sunday. I started that last Sunday. So you are, and I'm not going to call it the tail end of the Zebra Week. We're not going to call it that. We're going to call it, Bill Dojan is going to close out Zebra Week with us. I appreciate your time. We got this whole topsy-turvy thing going on. Everything good? You and your family? You're okay?
Oh, absolutely. I'm fortunate that I'm still able to work in this time. I know a lot of people are not able to, but still going to work every day and walking those dogs, and everything's good.
That's great to hear. I'm part of the essential thing too. I do the food thing out there, so I got to kind of take care of biz. So I dodged the COVID. I buy COVID. Yeah, never. I bob and weave it, and so what we like to do here is, I like to pull the curtain back of the wrestlers, the fine men and women, the talented men and women we have in our industry on our local scene. But since we're at Zebra Week, and what I like to do is introduce the fans that don't know you, because you're from the Massachusetts area. Am I correct, sir?
Actually, I'm from Connecticut. I grew up in Tolland, which is just outside of Hartford. But
okay. All the times I've seen you, it's been probably every single time, it's been in the Massachusetts area for a couple different promotions. Could you tell the fans what promotions you've worked in up in that area?
Sure. I've spent a lot of time with Pioneer Valley Pro Wrestling, Western Mass, the Justin Tunis promotions up there. We do some stuff with Blitzkrieg at the Moose Lodge up in Westfield, but we're mostly based out of Connecticut. Recently, I've went back to doing more work with Lucky Pro in Clinton, Massachusetts. It's close to where my wife grew up, so it's actually where we met. So it's nice to be back there after a few years of not being there again.
I without details, I don't like to get in your men and women's personal life, but you did say you met your wife at Lucky Pro Wrestling. Fantastic promotion. Love that place. Good times. I've only been able to get up there once or twice. It's a little far drive for me, but I really love that Lucky Pro. You met your wife at Lucky Pro. Were you fans at a show?
I went to a show to ref. I believe it was in Hudson, and I rode to the show with Frankie Arion, and I refed there, and her sister was a big wrestling fan, so they were there in the crowd that day, and he was actually the one that we were mutual friends, Frankie and my wife, so that's how I met her.
Wrestling does many things to our lives, and we as fans, we go to wrestling to get away, do that escape thing from the 9 to 5, if you will, or whatever's going on in our lives. And it's kind of like our little therapy. I find that it's the same with the men and women in wrestling. They use it. Is it the same way with the referees? You guys kind of just get away from your stuff. You get to go have some fun and something you love to do. Is that an escape for you?
Absolutely. It's such a release to just that time that I'm in the ring, I don't have to worry about any of the stress that's going on in my outside life, no work, not even family, nothing. I can just zero in and give it my full attention, which it doesn't deserve anything less than my full attention.
Obviously, we all start as fans. You've been a wrestling fan for a while, I would imagine, or did you get in late in the game? Because not everybody's always bred or born a wrestling.
Oh, since I'm 30 now, I've been a fan since I was around 11 or 10 years old. It's just the funny thing is I can remember my a lot of my family, my parents excluded, they were always very supportive, but a lot of my family said, oh, it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it, and I always thought that always struck me as odd because no one says that about anything else that you're interested in. No one will ever say, hey, you like that those action movies, but you'll grow out of them. Like, somehow with wrestling, it's expected to be different, but I never did. I'm still here.
It is, and I talk about that because if you're a wrestling fan and you find sometimes you meet random people and you find out that you're wrestling fans or whatever, conversation just never stops. But if you try to talk to someone that just doesn't like wrestling or doesn't know anything about wrestling, you're in your own little zone, and I can totally feel that, man. Wrestling, you can give it or you can take it. A lot of people are in between where, I'll check it out. You either kind of like it or you don't, it's kind of that kind of cut and dry thing. It's like, Mom, I'm going to go be a lawyer. That's a phase. It's not like that.
My grandmother was my grandmother on my dad's side was the worst with it. She refused to buy me any of the toys or any of the DVDs or anything because she just thought it was a complete waste of time. Maybe now, I don't think she's right, but
hey, you're still in the game, so she can't be right,
absolutely.
Now,
I love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to endure what you have to be when you're a part of professional wrestling, because it takes a lot of sacrifice and effort and time and the whole 9 yards. I grew up in the older stuff. I'm around that 50 mark, so I was like AWA, WCCW, and the older WWF stuff. You're a younger guy. What kind of stuff are you growing up that made you a fan?
Stone Cold, man. When I saw Stone Cold, that was it. He was the coolest thing I had ever seen, and there was no turning back.
Now, why a referee though? If you see the stuff on TV, you're like, man, I want to get in that ring. I want to be Stone Cold. And then, a few years on the road, maybe you started training or little. We'll get into that. And now, how come not a wrestler?
I never really had a lot of athletic background. I did some track and field in school, and I wasn't really good at that. And I saw the punishment that those men and women put themselves through, and at the end of the day, I wanted to be able to walk away relatively pain-free as much as possible.
Sounds logical, because I wouldn't be getting in that ring. Holy crap! Now, getting in that ring as a referee, not everybody does. That's in the biz. But I would assume, because of some of the men and women that I know you are associated with and work with on a regular basis, you've been trained. Would I be correct on saying that?
Yeah, I was trained after the fact a little bit. I got in. I was I used to backyard with Johnny Torres. That's where that was my connection to wrestling, and he was, out of all of us, he was the one that went to actually get the training. Everybody else kind of fell off. So, being one of my best friends, I would go to the shows with him. Sometimes I would go to training and watch. And one day, Joey Bricko, CTWE, was short a guy, and I just filled in. Did terrible. But after the fact was when I got more of the training from Kevin Landry a little from Slick Wagner Brown, and I've been really fortunate enough to learn a lot on the job, but to also have those early influences of guys, especially Kevin Landry, that allowed me to get in there and never charged me anything, just saw that I was dedicated and wanted to help me get better.
I've spoke of both. Even today, I am. Holy crap! What a day today, Ref Will. I am 4 episodes. This is 4 episodes of 5 today. And earlier, I talked to Rosalie Vale, the makeup queen, Miss Rosalie. If you're, I'm sure you're familiar with her. Now she come out of Kevin Landry's, and you mentioned both Kevin Landry and Slick Wagner Brown. She's trained with both of those guys. She had a story to tell from each of them, basically her experience. But you going to train to be a referee. Kevin Landry invite you. Is that where you started? Was Kevin Landry or Slick Wagner Brown?
Kevin Landry was where I started. Yeah.
You walk into combine and you start going through some of the stuff that it takes to get in that ring and do a little bumping around and stuff. How you feeling on day one? Are you like, F this, I'm taking off?
I was fortunate enough that some of the in-ring training was done by Aaron Morrison and Chris Camaro, and having been around them before I broke in, they were very patient with me, and I needed it. Again, my lack of athletic ability was pretty obvious from the start, but they were very patient with me, and they allowed me to really take those first couple steps.
It's a great facility up there. They have some free shows going on up there. When everything is, at a norm, they started doing some free shows. You do like a half a dozen matches. A lot of the crowd comes out. Their crowds have been getting bigger. The shows have been getting better. And it's right at that training facility, and we have a blast over there at the Combine, man.
That's a good thing, because I think when I first started going, that was the aspect that was missing. That opportunity to perform in front of a crowd. We were kind of on our own as far as getting. I mean, Kevin would help, but getting bookings outside of the school, and you had to. I know the guys had to wait until the wrestlers had to wait until he gave them his blessing, and I wasn't really officially a student, so I didn't really fall under that banner. So,
taking a bump has got to suck, no?
When there's no one there, and it's just in the training class, absolutely. When the crowd's going crazy, a lot of times I don't really feel it until maybe the next day.
After the fact, when the adrenaline kind of wears down a little bit, you've gone to bed and you're like, oh shit.
I've never done it and not felt it.
Do you like being involved in that stuff? Because I'm not sure, because usually, you're not, referees aren't involved in every single match. Like, a bump from a turnbuckle or something, whatever, a spear or a drop kick or just a bump outside or whatever. But do you enjoy being a little more involved in the match like that?
I do. It allows me to, get out that frustration that maybe the men and women get out as they compete, but it's a rush to hear the reaction, and even if I'm not physically involved, just the reaction of the crowd is something that's addicting.
I talk a lot about the relationship between the fans and the competitors in the ring announcer, the referee. It all takes this whole cool little thing to really make everybody have a good time, from performance to performance, from match to match to match, from event to event. And I'm glad that you feed off of that stuff, because that's what I hope that the fans, we project to you guys. So you feel it. But as a referee, did it take a little bit to feel that, or did it just kind of come naturally?
I think that as I got more training and more had a better idea of what I was actually doing in there and got comfortable, that's when I was able to relax and enjoy the experience more. I wasn't so anxious or worried about messing up or making a mistake. It still happens, 10 years or
Hey,
so in, it still happens. But
now, can I ask you something about, because you mentioned mistakes still happen, dude? It's wrestling. If it's the men and women that you're refereeing, they have their own little things. You have your own little things. It's wrestling. That's what happens, man. And it's always live, so you never know what the hell is going to happen. Now, that live feel, and I know there's, sometimes you've made the TV, like I know at Blitzkrieg they've had IWTV there a few times and stuff. Have you been on the TV thing? And if you have, does it make you more nervous because you know that TV is rolling?
I have been on IWTV a little bit with Blitzkrieg. I believe the show we did right before Money in the Bank in Hartford was one of the ones that I was on there. Honestly, it doesn't make me that any more nervous than it would on a regular show. At this point, I'm pretty comfortable. I don't get all that nervous unless there's a lot of stuff for me to remember. Yeah, I don't feel like it changes anything, especially at Blitzkrieg, one of my home promotions. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now, but I don't know if you can see it.
Hey, same here, baby.
Oh, you're rocking the old school one. I got the Ramones one. So I'm most comfortable at Blitzkrieg. So I would say that
I have
really an issue.
I have another Blitzkrieg one. It was a limited edition, and it has just like the fist pump thing, and it's got like punk rock style or something underneath. That was pretty cool because it was just like a little tiny limited run.
You're talking about the one that says like punk hardcore or whatever.
Yeah.
That's I can't really show you, but that's this one that I was lucky to grab one too.
Yeah, I like to get those limited, and I can't get them all the time, but if I do have the extra $20 or whatever, I try to, when they say, hey, this is a limited gig, I try to run over there and hit the merch booth to grab one, Being a referee, we call you zebras, and because around here, we have the Zebras of Justice, and it makes up like referee Bill. Me and him, I don't know, man. We're on weird, shaky ground. But anyways,
I saw he was. I watched his episode. He was busting your balls a little bit.
A little bit. Holy cow! But you know what? I do it right back to him, and I was kind of tanked on the moonshine. So thank you for watching that. Out of all the episodes, that was probably a good one to watch.
You were drinking? I couldn't tell.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm not a drinker, so I really appreciate that. But we have the Zebras of Justice, Ref Gina, there's Ref John, and Bill Thompson. And we have a lot of fun, the crowd, and we interact with the workers and stuff. But when it comes to the referees, I think the modern wrestling fans seem to enjoy that interaction a little bit more sometimes between the referee and the fans. My question is, have you ever had any of those weird interactions? Because you never know if it could be after show in a parking lot. It could be somebody trying to grab you or throw something stupid at you. Have you had any weird fan interactions like that?
No, for the most part, everyone's really nice and understands boundaries. Some people are a little overly friendly, maybe, but that just comes with the territory of performing and being on a stage and having people watch. That sometimes they feel like we're maybe closer than we are, but no one's in a creepy way or anything that may be uncomfortable. Everyone's, for the most part, pretty good.
Hey, that's good to hear, because I think that's the way it should be. Fans have boundaries. Wrestlers have boundaries. We try to follow that and keep it good, So I'm glad to hear that.
We're all just people, act as you would to another person. We're not any different.
And now you mentioned Blitzkrieg. I see a lot at PvP, and I see a lot at WMW. And I've just kind of come into the WMW and PvP scene again. It's been a little while for me, but I used to go there all the time. And when WMW started, I couldn't really get out that way. It came just a little bit closer when I moved. So I started kind of going out that way, and we have a lot of fun. There's storylines, which we need. And I know without those, it's really tough. Do you dig the storylines in wrestling? Do you think that it's really a necessity? Because not everybody thinks that storylines are, because they all have, everybody has their own opinion. So I was just curious on how you like the storyline situation.
I love the continuity from show to show. I love the storylines that we do. And I think that good matches are a part of it, obviously. You can't have one without the other. But I think that more of an emotional investment comes from when you have the good stories to back up the quality matches. And I think that's what really helps us get more crowds and do better attendance-wise, is when you have a good mix of both.
And you got, excuse me, I don't have the Kincaid, I swear. I just a little something here. But you guys really have a good time. You give the fans a fantastic evening. And like from Blitzkrieg, you've got the banquet hall, and we're the home of the pierogies, where that place is fantastic. The ceiling is unlimited up there. I mean, you can do basically whatever you want in that place. And
as long as it's on the one side, we can only with the chandelier, only strict in the meetings every time. Only that one side we can jump on.
Now, then you get into the smaller venues where, and I'm not saying it's any different, but it is to a degree. Oh. But when you get into like a VFW, where, because that banquet hall is pretty good size, I love, and I'm not saying it's any different because they don't have barriers at Blitzkrieg, and you're right there. But when there's, say, 100 people, 125, 150 people, it's just that really, really more intimate kind of thing. And the lower ring kind of makes it a total different vibe than I was ever used to. When I first started going to PvP, I've never been to a show like that. And that was back in South Hadley when you guys were running there regularly. Do you have a preference? I'm very, very curious as a fan. Do you have a preference of any kind of ring? Because there's multiple kinds of rings to be in that you like to work in.
I really don't have a preference. Anytime I'm able to get in there and do my thing, it's a good experience for me.
Are you part of the ring crew? Like you come in and you do the helping of putting up the ring and all of that good stuff? Are you ever part of that?
Occasionally. I work a lot, so I'm most of the time I'm involved in the breakdown of the ring versus the setting it up.
But you're still doing it, right?
Right. Yeah. Always. You always got it. You never stop and helping out and doing, whether it's chairs or like a lot of times my wife will help run the door, and we all pitch in every bit that we can to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
It's got to be fun having your partner interested in wrestling, because if she didn't like wrestling, it'd probably be a little harder to keep this ball rolling as a referee, So I talk about support system on the show quite often. I try to mention it to each of them because without that, I feel it's very hard to persevere in wrestling. Do you find it very easy to have your wife who's into wrestling and she supports you in your endeavor as a referee, right?
Absolutely. I would do you one better and say that without it, the relationship wouldn't work. I've had several relationships that didn't because of it. And they realize, hey, we work all week and our only times to see each other on the weekends. So, I have a show this weekend and next weekend. And then it quickly becomes, okay, well, when are we going to see each other? Well, we'll figure it out. And it's so much easier to be with somebody that enjoys participating with me. And yeah, part of how I knew I was going to marry her was that she was the only person I've ever been with that's pushed me to become better and not wanted to know why or wasn't content with me just staying where I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's a big plus because wrestling is one of, and I know I sound repetitive from interview to interview sometimes but I like to get the same, I like to use some of the same questions, to be honest, but it's always not always, it's the similar point of view as you put it, but you guys get to share how that's happened in your own specific upcoming as a wrestler, a referee, or an announcer. Because, like you said, without it, man, it just doesn't work, man. And it kind of brings you down in wrestling, and you want to be able to persevere. And it's just a hard thing to do. Wrestling, I think, is one of the hardest things in the world to accomplish.
I would agree with that.
Now, I see Will, and I also see a new younger ref that's on the WMW and PvP scene. Could you share to the fans that don't know who's the newer referee in the company right now?
Jason Tunis, we're talking about?
Yes. Jason Tunis, the kid, I go, hey, man, he looks very familiar. And Fogman, you know Fogman. And
Absolutely.
Fogman goes, he's a Tunis kid. And I go, oh, no, yes, now it makes sense.
Yeah, there's a little family resemblance there.
So, yeah, man, seeing him in there, that's got to be fun for you. Now, did you help Mr. Tunis get into this whole referee thing? And if it, obviously his brother or whatever that is obviously very heavy into wrestling, but were you part of his mentorship and maybe giving him a helping hand and being a referee and such?
I wasn't initially part of the start of it, but of course he's a very humble person. He always asks for advice, and he actually takes it and is willing to listen. So anytime that he asks me for my opinion, I absolutely will give it to him. And I'm one of those kind of people that doesn't necessarily like to step on toes. It's gotten me in trouble in the past, giving my opinions when they weren't necessarily asked for or wanted. So, everybody does it, but yeah, he absolutely, he's willing to take in all information he can and does the best he can out there. Last Western Mass show, I think was his first main event, and he wasn't shook. He went out there and did a great job, and I think he's going to continue to just get better from here.
I have to agree. Now, I was at that last show, and between both companies, there's been a power struggle between one Matthew James and one Hammer Tunis. Holy shit, you guys are taking us on a ride and a half. There was supposed to be, before all of this mess happened, a cage match coming up.
Oh, it's still coming.
Yeah, I know. I know nobody's forgetting about that. I know that's coming. But my point being is, you're a referee in a cage match. How ominous, how different is the environment being in a cage match than a traditional match? Because I've never asked that to any referee, and I would love that insight.
I've only done one cage match in my whole ref career. It was very early on. It was for Mike Lynch in Agawam. I don't. The name of the promotion is escaping me, but it was a 4-way, I believe, with Slick Wagner Brown, Jeremy Leary, Bobby Fish, and Frankie Arion. I believe was the match.
Wow.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get a lot of opportunities early on. That thanks to I went on the road with Slick a little bit, and he was instrumental in a lot of those opportunities that I got. But yeah, it's staying out of the way is always a major thing. But when you're confined and you got nowhere to go, even more so is the issue. just just making sure you're out of the way of flying bodies and also anything that may happen. It gets a little crazy in there.
Well, you never know, because you might end up being the referee in that cage match. And I'm really looking forward to that. You guys have taken the fans, again, on quite the ride with the storylines that you have provided through your performance in the rings, the whole Bacon thing, Scotty Wild, I mean, you guys are doing a fantastic job over there. It is so much fun. And you have refereed for some of the coolest names that are in the local scene and or that were in our local scene and now have gone on. We see them on TV now. That's got to be really cool to be able to work with men and women in any of those capacities, I would imagine, no?
Absolutely. It's so great to see people that you've grown to to know and to see experience all the ups and downs that we alluded to earlier come with being part of wrestling. It's great to see them achieve that success to varying degrees on TV for other companies, internationally, whatever it is. However each person defines success is different, but it's absolutely great to just be a tiny step in that journey for these people.
Now, I'm in the CT area. Obviously, you said you are, but I see you more in the Massachusetts area. For the fans around here that don't get a chance to go up there, do you have any specific names? And it doesn't have to be many, just a couple, not to slight anybody else. This is just off the top of your head, because what I like to do is get a couple from here and there, because I talk to men and women from Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts. So give us, the fans, a couple names that sticks out in your mind that we could go on the social medias and take a look at, maybe that we've never even heard of.
Let's see. Guys that you've never heard of.
Not me specific.
You, the collective you.
Yeah.
All right. I worked with a guy in last year in Warriors of Wrestling. He's out in the New York area. His name is Tyree Taylor.
Okay.
I think he recently moved up here to train a little bit with Brian Fury at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. That's a guy that I would absolutely say check out. I think he should be all over all of these shows that we're in this area of New England in general. Now that he's up here, especially, it should be easier to get him on there. Main State Posse, those are my boys. Everybody knows about them by now. And if you don't, you're living under some kind of rock. Scotty Wild, obviously one of my best friends outside of the business, but also can hold his own inside. Rip Bison, Perry Von Vicious, Mutually Assured Destruction, I believe is I know it's MAD. I know the acronym. I'm not looking at my t-shirt. I bought a t-shirt. I'm not looking at it right now, but
yeah, you've named some amazing guys. And you've actually had the pleasure of having Wrecking Ball Legursky be a regular in a lot of the places that you work at. And he goes all over the place, and that Northeast Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of, and I could be wrong because I've never really sat and talked with the man, but Northeast Wrestling seems to be his home base. And he's worked with a lot of big, giant stars. And, to have him as a regular, and he's gone through this whole body transformation. How is it working with Wrecking Ball Legursky? Because, again, big guy. I'm very thin. I don't know if he'll kill me or not. So could you talk a little bit about Wrecking Ball Legursky?
Sure. When he's coming at you, running at you, doing absolutely terrifying. But it's great to see him. You mentioned the body transformation, and he's always taking it seriously. But to bump it up that next step and to really hit the gym and improve in the ring with dropping the weight, he's clearly more agile. He was always agile for his size, but he can just the way he moves now is you can see a drastic difference from when he started.
Very impressive for the guy his size right now. And I know a lot of the big guys that are in wrestling, and it just takes 2 or 3 cool moves for a big guy to do. And we as fans, we lose our shit. It really don't take much to please us. I mean, come on. Now, your go-to wrestling, like I like Matt traditional wrestling, and again, not taken away from any of the other arts. I love some lucha. I love some of the other stuff, but I grew up in the 70s on like my first match that I saw was that really stands out. Bob Backlund against Cowboy Bob Orr in 1978, Bristol Central High School. And Ivan Putski, Tito Santana against the Wild Samoans with Lou Albano. Those two stand out for me, but that was my kind of shit right there. Do you like the old Matt stuff? Do you like the flippy stuff? What do you like in wrestling?
There's I generally like all of it, but I will say a lot of trouble. I have a lot of trouble with anything. Usually, anything from 1985 onward is fair game.
Okay,
gets a little bit of the Backlunds, the San Martinos, those guys that are. It's like you can respect where I actually talk about this with a lot of the older school guys a lot. You can respect that what they've done to get us to the point where we're at right now, but the first thing I saw in wrestling was Stone Cold, and he was climbing a truck and shooting beer out. Once you see that, you can't really put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I can't really go back and watch a hour-long match centered around an armbar.
Mm-hmm.
For its time, if I had in the context of its time, I'm sure it was good. And obviously it helped get us where we're at now, but
yeah.
Particularly, yeah, so I like it all. Basically is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, same here. So the NWA, Billy Corrigan breaks it out of nowhere, gets the 10 pounds of gold, brings it on the scene, starts putting it on YouTube, and it is like as old school as you can get right now, modern day wrestling. Have you seen any of that? And again, since we just talked about that, I want to get your perspective on the NWA because it's got that real old school flavor.
I've only seen a little bit of it, but everything I've seen I enjoy. Obviously, our area, Ashley Vox, I'm a huge Ashley Vox fan, and I think it's great to see her get an opportunity to do something on a bigger scale like that. It's good to see Ken Anderson's there. I know. I saw that. I saw him there. Colt Cabana, Marty Scurll, and Brody King. There's a lot of good storylines going on there that I keep up with it. I don't necessarily watch it all. Right. There's just so much wrestling that exists. But I try to keep tabs on the people that I know, what they're doing, and I love it. I think it's a great idea to throw back a little bit to that older school.
And like I've said previous on a couple interviews, you get that vibe to where, and I know, Dusty's not with us, but you're waiting for Ric Flair to come out. You're waiting for Dusty or the Horsemen as a collective. You're waiting for those guys to come out and cut a promo at that podium. It's just such a cool feel. I love the NWA. It's really cool. Now, as a referee, you've been in it about a decade. Is that to be correct?
So the first match I reffed was in 2007, but I count my starting as 2010 when I had actual training, when I was getting booked consistently. That's when I really would consider my beginning, my actual beginning.
Now, as a referee, do you see how because wrestling kind of changes in little spurts over time. Maybe it promos or move sets or just the way people, gimmicks are presented or whatever. Have you seen a transition from where you started in wrestling and when you would call matches to nowadays when you call matches? Is there any difference or?
There's a lot more done in putting things together. There's a lot more. It's a lot more action. It's not as simple. It's a little more complex as far as who's got to be where, who's going to do this. If there's a reversal, if there's a bump, it was very simple. Even as early on as when I started doing, like, even my first couple of things back in 2007. I'm fortunate that it was still at a time where it was a very simple business because it was easy for me to sort of learn as I went, and then obviously with more training as I got along. But yeah, that's the main change from then to now. But that 2010 to 2020 wrestling was pretty similar. It was around the 2007 2008 where it started to pick up and become more complex structure wise.
I talked about intimate settings. Test of Strength Wrestling, Slick Wagner Brown, East Hartford, Connecticut. I don't think it gets any more intimate than that. There's a room in a ring with about, 30 seats maybe. And holy crap, talk about cool times at the training days. And I've seen ref Will Dojan there many a time. The environment at that place, isn't that like some of the coolest shit ever?
It's so much fun. Anytime I get to be around all those people, but in Wagner specifically, is just done so much for me. I can't even begin to go into all of it. It's just it's so much fun to be, like you said, in that intimate little environment, and I think that it could be bigger and it wouldn't lose. You know what I mean? I think that he would fill whatever area he decided to do it in, because there's just that connection with the audience that he has.
That's for sure, because they started doing road shows. A few of us fans, we like to call them pay-per-views for Test of Strength because they've always done training days, which were those house shows. So now that they start doing the road shows, which have gone on for a little bit, about more than a year now, we call them pay-per-views, and we're like, oh shit, a pay-per-view is coming up for TOS. So it's a little more like excitement when they go out. But the first, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say that you can see that though the live shows too are full. Every single one of them packed.
Yeah.
So
and what's real fun is when the very first time they ever had one was at the Deuce in Northampton. That place was slammed. Holy crap, it was slammed. I actually think for the first two times they went there, they actually had to turn people away. And I'm telling you, man, when they go to the Deuce, TOS is such an amazing time. They really, like you said, Slick can sell them out. Just give them a bigger room, and holy crap, I would love to see them in a bigger environment from TOS. But I still love that that tight intimacy too. I mean, it kind of would take away from that, but that's just me, I
do. I think either way, TOS puts on a really good show. And to speak again to Wagner, I went to that first show, the Deuce in Northampton, and I was just coming to hang out, and he said, "Oh, what do you do?" He was surprised I was there. So, "Oh, what are you doing here?" It's just hanging out, you want to ref a match? So I got to work. With Buffa from House Party, which is a guy I've known for a few years. So it was good to get a chance to do that. But I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. He'll fit you in, and so yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I'm like,
no, because all of the men and women that have been touched, not touched. Let's not use that word. That have been affected in their wrestling careers by Slick Wagner Brown. always speak very highly of him and how, again, your word, they say the same thing, instrumental in their careers. So I love hearing the love about Slick Wagner Brown because, man, that place is just an amazing time. He puts out some good students. Some of them have already risen to a different level. And I can't wait to see how big TOS can get because I think they're just going to soar. I love TOS.
It's only up from here for them. I agree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, Ref Will, I noticed that I don't see you in a lot of zebra stripes. It's usually like a little more solid print. Is that a preference? Is it the promotion's preference? What's going on with that?
You don't see me in zebra stripes in the ring?
Well, at TOS, you're wearing black.
That's a preference for Wagner that we wear it's branding we have the same patch that you have on your hat there, and
okay.
It's nice to switch it up. I like to switch it up occasionally. Sometimes we'll do old school shows for PvP, so we'll get to bust out the blue shirt and the bow tie. I like the bow tie a lot.
You look fantastic in that. I've seen those pictures.
Thank you. I think I'm a little skinnier now, so I could probably pull it off a little better. But it's nice to switch it up occasionally.
Yeah, definitely. Is there any? Have you ever been in? Because hey, man, PvP, WMW. You've got Logan Black. You've got a couple of the other guys that really like to not really keep it in the ring and go street style, last man standing, hardcore matches, kind of ish. Holy shit! I've seen you in some stuff. Would you rather not do that kind of stuff and be more traditional match referee?
Honestly, I love the violence. I love the anticipation of the action in there. Some of my favorite things to matches to be a part of were actually death matches with glass and thumbtacks, and it's just an added element of danger that really boosts the adrenaline. When you've been doing it for a while, you can arm bars, headlocks, it all looks the same, but that little bit of realism of maybe maybe I'll step on something myself or something, it makes it a little more exciting for me sometimes. It sometimes breaks up, not monotony, that's a bad word, but it breaks up similarities of different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like being right in the middle of the chaos. It's my favorite
that was
thing.
very well put. Yeah, very well put, sir. Speaking of maybe stepping on stuff or whatever, you ever get a tack in your foot or in your ass or on your arm or in your hand when you're counting? You get any shit like you been through any of that garbage?
I have. Recent or about 2 years ago, I guess now. I did a tournament for On Point Wrestling in New Jersey called Survival of the Sickest. Okay. And I was able to. The other referee, I guess, got cold feet or whatever. Didn't want anything to do with the violence, so I got to Iron Man the whole show. And by the time I was done with it, it cost me a pair of ref pants. They were between the barbed wire and the thumbtacks and the everything else. I think the main event had weed whackers. It was a little crazy, but yeah. So it definitely cost me a pair of ref pants, but totally worth it.
Now, you speak of the hardcore scene like you really enjoy it. The ECW days, you were digging that stuff?
Absolutely. It was I got into the Attitude Era, so my WWF was ECW before I knew what ECW was.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I got into ECW maybe towards the end, the 99, 2000, right when they were on TNN, before it was done completely, and going back and watching all that stuff, that's something for some reason I can maybe better or worse, that's what I can connect with. Mm-hmm. That intensity, and it was just something about guys like New Jack. They might not have been the best mat-based guys, but they didn't always have to be.
Mm-hmm. They told the story. They put on their art form, if you will, for that match.
Yeah.
Now, why I bring that up, because you brought up the hardcore stuff. I'm kind of getting your ECW vibe. Now let's fast forward. You get guys in Blitzkrieg and such, like the Sandman comes out with his stick and the beer and all of that shit. That kind of stuff has got to be surreal for one Ref Will, no?
Oh man, just the sit in the ring and listen to that song hit, and him, especially when we did the show at the. I've gotten a chance to work with him a couple times now, but the show that we did at the women's building in West. It was our first Westfield show, Women's Center, I believe it was, where it had a balcony and the music hits, and he's on the balcony with the beer and the cane and the. I was like a little kid. Yeah, it was great.
Again, I'm going to mention another personality. Sabu came out doing his thing, went against, if I'm not mistaken, against Jeremy Leary. If I remember, am I to say that correctly? Do you remember that at all?
Absolutely, went against Jeremy Leary. That was cool to see, because I know it was cool for him to be a part of too, to see maybe one of my longest friends in wrestling get to be in there with Sabu also with me. It was a cool experience overall. Anytime I get to work with guys like Jeremy or Scotty Wild, or guys that I've known for a long time, it's great. But stick an ECW legend in there, and it's even better.
Now, obviously, some guys still think it's real to me, man. There's still some of those guys out there, so I don't want to push the limits too much. But I know you guys and girls have a lot of love and sister brotherhood behind the scenes. And like you said, Scotty Wild, and you've named some really cool names. I have another curiosity that I've never asked a referee during Zebra Week. Thank you for hanging with us. Now, you're friends with Scotty Wild. You're reffing one of his matches. Well, just hypothetically speaking, okay? And now a referee is not supposed to break the look. You're supposed to be pretty neutral, no laughing and nothing. Do your expressions and do what you have to do as a ref, but don't be all smirking and laughing and stuff. You're not supposed to do that kind of stuff. But now you're in a match with Scotty Wild. He comes up to you. He's yelling in your face for something stupid. Hypothetical again. Is it hard to hold those laughters back? I'm very curious.
Yeah, at times it can be. Sometimes, we're supposed to be serious. We're supposed to take everything seriously, and I try to do that the best I can. But sometimes I just let it out, let the laugh out. I think everybody knows at this point that we're all having fun with what we do. If we weren't, we wouldn't be doing it. So it's in the context of maybe a heated fight between guys. You're not going to see me joking around and laughing, but if he comes out and does something ridiculous like he does in real life when he licks my face or something, whatever other stupid crap Scott Lugenbuehl decides to do, sometimes they can get me to break. And I used to try really hard not to, but the longer I do it, the more I realize we're all just having fun. So you can't take yourself too seriously.
It absolutely very well put, because that's why we escape from our crap. We go to wrestling. It's something that we all love. If you're in the ring, if you're on the other side of the ring, sitting in the seats as fans, wrestling kind of brings people together. And holy shit, Ref Will, I have been interviewing people nonstop since the 19th of March. Every single day I've had at least one, or up to, as in today, 5 interviews. And it's still going all the way till April 18th. My calendar is totally nonstop every single day. It's been amazing. It's been crazy. We've heard so many cool stories, and you sharing your stuff is all part of this, and I cannot, and I truly mean this. I cannot thank you for spending the time with us, the fans, getting to know the biz a little bit as a referee, because we don't always understand that stuff. We look at the wrestlers, you know. Thank you for sharing your info, some stories. We had some fun. We had some laughs. I hope you had a good time today. Was it beneficial?
Absolutely.
Did you have a good time? Oh, right.
It was absolutely beneficial. I had a great time. Anytime you want to do this again, I was a little nervous coming into it, but you put me at ease right away. So anytime you want to do this again, or just let me know.
I would love to do a follow-up, because I didn't get all the zebras that we all know and love. So we could bring it back. So, hey, I'm definitely willing. Let's do some follow-up down the road. We got to connect, my friend.
Absolutely.
Well, this was Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, part of Zebra Week. And I'm not going to say the tail end, because that makes it sound kind of weird, but he is finishing.
We finished strong.
We finished strong on Zebra Week with ref. Oh, F that. I am not. No way, no how. I am not stopping this without asking you a vital question that just hit me, and I am so glad. Now, you know how I take my status from Skype? Little fire thingy. I put your name on it. I want people to know who's coming on the show next. Did you see that?
I did see it.
The very first comment, and I do mean within 30 seconds worth of time, a fan that goes to the PvP and the WMW, Mclovin, love Mclovin. Where the hell did Mclovin come from? Give me that. I forgot to ask you.
All right. I think originally it was an outside of wrestling thing, and I went with John Torres, Johnny Miyagi, and another friend to go see Superbad in theaters. And so we got to, it was the part where Mclovin comes on the screen, and he comes in, he's doing his "What's up, gangsters?" and they look at each other, they look at me, and I was in the middle with each of them on my side, on each side, and they look at each other, they look at me, and they look at each other, and then they start laughing. And I think that was the birth of it. And I had people, I went to, they called me Mclovin, people that I went to school down south. I went to school in North Carolina for college. They called me Mclovin, you know, independent of my friends up here. So apparently there was a little bit of resemblance, either in the, you know, in the face wise or the demeanor. I thought, you know, it could have been both back then.
So you just kind of roll with the punches with the whole Mclovin thing?
Yeah, you know, it used to at first get me a little upset, but everybody's just, it's all in good fun. So people would heckle me or whatever in the crowd, and, you know, whatever you want to say, whatever, as long as you're saying something and you're not sitting there on your hands and quiet, and as long as you're getting involved, like, that's what it's all about, man. Just having a good time. And
what a fantastic way to finish this off. Again, Refville, an absolute pleasure. This was Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Refville Dojan. Thank you so much, my friend.
You're welcome. Have a good night, Don.
You too.